Hey y'all, today we have a familiar face on the show, and it'll be familiar voice if you're just listening, but in a new position. He's now football news editor for The Score. It's Brenden Deeg. Thanks for coming on again, man.
Thanks for having me on, Matt. Appreciate it. How are things?
Good. Enjoying. Of course, I'm a Philadelphia Eagles fan, so of course, starting off 3-0. Can't have the expectation. I never had the expectation for the Eagles that we'd be, quite this good. I still have the expectation. I've stayed with my expectation of about 11-6. So that's where I'm at with it with the Eagles. And if they do better than that, that's house money for me.
Yeah, man, they're off to a really good start. It's fun, and you know what? It's not just 3-0. Like they're really fun to watch, and I think that's kind of an interesting aspect to look at it for this team, right? Like they've got the juice back. Like it's not just they're winning close games; they've blown out some teams off the bat. So football's back in Philly.
Absolutely. So for people who don't do much, you are like big into the anytime touchdowns, and if you follow, I've sent you a few of these Nicolas Cage gifs for anytime touchdowns. Can you explain what that is for folks? Because I'm sure people have run across it a few times and they're like, okay, it seems like maybe I understand it, but help the listeners understand what that is.
Yeah, so my old job at the National Football Post, when I started, I was asked to do it, and I kind of fell in love with it. And I think it's football. There's so many things you can bet on, right? You can bet on totals, you can bet on spreads, you can bet on yards, over under rushing yards, passing yards, like anything you can think of, you can bet on it. I find the touchdown bet to be the most exciting and kind of the most exhilarating bet to hit if you do get it right. Like the guy across the end zone, it's just like, and then there's a touchdown to it. And to my opinion, is the most exciting bet on it. The bet to make on an NFL game. So when I was asked to start doing it, just again kind of fell in love with it, and I'm continuing to do it now at the Score. I'm going to be writing about it in a few months, just getting my feet wet here. So I will be doing it kind of professionally again. So right now it's just on Twitter, but yeah, it's just basically I like to find guys in the plus 200 and up range, because I always think that you can find value in other touchdown scores, like or bet 2+ touchdown scores, so like Travis Kelce, good guys like that to score 2 touchdowns that are capable of doing that. I find in these type of bets that if you just bet like the guys that are minus odds, you're not going to make money off it. You got to find value in the guys kind of second wide receivers, third wide receivers, second running backs, tight ends, stuff like that, because those guys do find the end zone. That's actually, they have statistics to back it up, where right now the guys that are minus odds to score a touchdown are only hitting at like a 35% rate. So that just goes to show right there that's a lot lower than, I know it's only 3 games, small sample size, but the guys, you want to see that up in the 45% range if it's worth your money, and it's at the 35% range, which is just not worth it. So finding guys in the plus odds that you can kind of do some research on, red zone targets, matchups, how many touchdowns the opposing defense allows, stuff like that. You can find good value in some of these guys, and it's fun. I just find it's a fun kind of niche little thing that I like. I guess in the game of football.
So the Bengals and the Dolphins play on Thursday Night Football. There's a lot of people that would be interesting plays there. Who are you feeling for? There's a whole bunch of stars. Just that game is littered with stars and emerging players. So who are you feeling in that game?
So this game's tough right now because it's still undecided if Tua Tagovailoa is going to play. So I actually wrote about this at the Score on, I think it was Monday.
Yesterday. Okay.
Yes, Monday. I think Monday was the Dolphins one. I can't remember exactly, but this whole situation with Tua is very bizarre because I've watched football for long enough, Matt. You saw the video of Tua get up, right?
Yes.
Kind of wobble down. What did you make of that? Like, to me, it looks like he got a head injury. No, like, again, it's plausible that his back tweaked and he fell. That's the story that they're giving. They're giving that he had a hurt back and ankle because he's not even in concussion protocol right now. He went back in the game in the third quarter against the Bills. So very odd situation there. So the touchdown scores, I'm going to wait to kind of get confirmation exactly if he's playing or not, because I think that's big. On the Bengals side of things, I don't exactly know where I'm going with it, but I kind of leaning towards Jamar Chase 2+. I had that bet last week and only scored 1. I think he's due for a big game.
Oh,
and the odds are like up over, it's a plus 600, which isn't bad. Yeah, plus 650. so you can get a lot of juice on it. The Bengals are a tough team right now to kind of find value on. Like it's pretty much Jamar Chase and T Higgins or die with this team. I think Sam GP ran had a touchdown last week, but Joe Mixon went out. Besides that, like Tyler Boyd, I guess you can look at for plus 220. Like T Higgins is plus 145. It's not enough juice for me. Like I kind of wanted up in that plus 180 if I was going to make that bet. But this is a tough game. You probably, I know the podcast is today, but I think you're just a day too early just because of the Tua Tagovailoa thing. Like it's so hard to dictate where I'm going to go with it.
Yeah, I mean, and to your question, I mean, what I made of it, he banged his head really hard, exactly where you don't want to, and got up exactly how you don't want to get up, and looked a little woozy. So I don't know what kind of games you can play in these this day and age with how closely people are watching. But if we see him, and if you are watching this, and you may be listening to this, listener, after the game, but we may be foreshadowing you're very susceptible to getting another one, especially if you've had a concussion recently. So certainly looks like a concussion to me.
Yeah, I agree. And they're denying it. Mike McDaniels, the Tua Tagovailoa, was actually pissed off at him when they were like, "Is your head okay?" And Tua was like, "No, like my head's fine. I don't get why everyone's asking me this." He didn't really understand why people were kind of mongering him for a head injury, but it's a weird situation. But it looks like he's going to play. It's good. That's a really exciting game. I'm looking forward to it. It's probably the best primetime game we've got. Primetime games have been really boring to start the year. They've been awful.
Yeah, including the Monday night game this week.
And Sunday night. Oh my God, both were duds.
Horrible. So what about Sunday night football this week? Is Chiefs and Bucks? Who are you feeling in terms of the anytime touchdowns for that one?
So this game, that the odds are actually not up yet at FanDuel for anytime touchdowns for the Sunday game, unfortunately, but probably looking at maybe Travis Kelce 2+. I'm curious to see what the Chiefs running backs are at. Jerick McKinnon, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I think I'd probably maybe look at one of those backs. But in the game itself, I'm really big on the Chiefs -1.5. Really like the Chiefs this week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they're a very ugly kind of 2-1 start. They're 2-1, right? 2-1.
Yep,
yeah,
that's
2-1.
Right.
They're an ugly 2-1 start. Like if you take a look at some of the numbers across the board from the Bucs are 27th in offensive DVOA right now. What DVOA is like a statistic from Football Outsiders, analytic statistic to kind of show how efficient your offense or defense is. They're one of the least efficient offense in the NFL, and they're especially one of the least efficient run games in the NFL. They're 32nd, dead last in rushing EPA per play right now. They can't do anything on the ground. They're not just dead last; they're last by a lot. Like they have the worst rushing attack in the league. If Tom Brady can't get the ball to these wide receivers, and these receivers are old and banged up right now, if Chris Godwin can play, I think that kind of changes things. I think they really miss him. But I'm just, until the Bucs can prove it to me against a good team, I can't ride with them. I think the Chiefs are just overall right now are the better football team you need. It's only 1.5 too, so I think it's good value there.
Talk about bad games. I mean, the Bucs-Packers game, that was another stinker.
Yeah, and it was supposed to be an exciting game too, right? Yeah, those are two like of the top teams in the NFC, and both those offenses are off to a slow start.
I saw that one coming. I thought that one would be a 21-17 game. So when it was a low score, I mean, Aaron Rodgers, it's inexplicable. I mean, obviously, again and again, he's a great player with a track record of excellence as a quarterback, but he has these stinkers here and there where it doesn't even make sense. But I'm starting to get a feel for when it's coming, and I felt last week coming, so I feel good about that. Monday Night Football, you got the Niners and the Rams. Who are you feeling there?
I'm big on the Niners. Again, I don't think there's odds up for the anytime touchdowns yet for the Monday night game either. No, they're still not up. So, but I do like the 49ers -1.5 as well. I'm not big on the Rams right now, and I do think the 49ers are going to bounce back after that ugly Sunday night game. I know it's weird to say Jimmy Garoppolo's been there a while, but I think they had to adjust to a kind of a new. The offense with Jimmy and the offense with Trey Lance is so much different.
Yep.
Kyle Shanahan almost probably had two different playbooks for those two quarterbacks. So I think rolling out Jimmy Garoppolo right at the gate, maybe, on week 3 just wasn't the whole offense wasn't going to be so cohesive. So I think it's going to take a week. And again, I'm just not impressed with the Rams, man. Like I thought the Cardinals were even somewhat competent against the Rams last week. They would have won that game. So I think there's a lot of a lot of proving to go on in the top teams, the Rams, the Bucs, the Packers, and the NFC. And I just like the 49ers rushing attack and defense too much to kind of. I think they could probably. I trust them more than the Rams, and I trust them more than the Bucs at this point. I know that may sound crazy, but I do think the talent's there, and they're healthy. Like the 49ers don't have a lot of injuries besides Trey Lance. Well, Trent Williams is actually out. That's not entirely true, but
6 weeks, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, I think they're going to bounce back nicely on Monday night.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, that the Trent Williams injury is a question mark for them. But to your point a second ago about the Bucs, I fear as a Eagles fan the Niners much more than I fear the Bucs this year, based on what I've seen
as of right now, 100%.
So, I think you're right. I think the Niners beat the Rams. I think the Rams. It's a little front runner syndrome. I think Matt Stafford's a little too loose with the football. If you look at the statistics, I mean, he's really racking up the interceptions and the turnovers. And if they still haven't gotten it figured out with Allen Robinson, they haven't been able to really get a running game going. So we got Darrell Henderson, and is he questionable, or they've gotten a weird timeshare going on there? It's it's not what it was last year on that incredible run.
For 100%, and again, the Super Bowl hangover I think can be, is there to start the season, and they're just so top heavy. The Rams have like no depth. Like you got Cooper Kupp, you've got Jalen Ramsey, Aaron Donald. Besides those three, it's such a big drop off of talent. So unless I think if those three aren't dominating, they don't really have a lot elsewhere.
Another really good game that I'm looking forward to. If it wasn't on at the same time as my Philadelphia Eagles, that I would have all eyes on this one. This is the Bills and the Ravens. They're at the Ravens. I might even go if it was I would ride up to Baltimore or down to Baltimore and watch that game. Where are you going in that one?
I like the Bills to bounce back -3. I do think I think these games are going to be pretty close. I think the Bills probably score a touchdown towards the end, but I just like the Bills to bounce back. I think the Bills are the best team in football. I still think they are, even after last week's loss. I still think they're the most talented roster. The Ravens secondary is just so banged up. So I can't see how they're going to slow down the Bills passing attack.
Agreed.
I will say this: Lamar Jackson has really, really impressed me to start the year. I think he's the number one candidate for MVP right now. I think Jalen Hurts is too. We'll probably get to that in a little bit, but I do think Lamar Jackson is probably the front runner for MVP right now. He's playing out of his mind. It's funny. He was the third worst quarterback against the blitz last year, according to EPA. So teams came up the gate blitzing. Like they saw that from last year and said, we're going to attack him by the blitz. He's the best quarterback in the NFL this year against the blitz, according to EPA. It's a completely different swing. And it's funny, if you watch the game against the Patriots, you can see like Belichick, like they knew exactly. They wanted to throw everything out in the kitchen sink and see, okay, what are the first two games a fluke? Let's go back and let's attack him the way the teams did last year, even though he was good against the blitz the first two games, and Lamar tore them up. So it's good. You can see he's worked hard this offseason. You can see that he's got a chip on his shoulder this offseason because they won't pay him. So I think it's gonna be a high scoring game, but I think the Buffalo Bills passing offense is gonna be too much.
Yeah, and I think at a certain point, having Von Miller, nobody can stop Lamar Jackson from getting around and making the plays he wants to. But if you have one of those premier guys who are able to spy, it holds them at bay. And until Lamar, and I kind of agree with you on the MVP part because of what Lamar is working with. He doesn't have a A.J. Brown. He doesn't have a Devontae Smith. He's got Devin Duvernay, who's okay, especially, fantasy DFS, but you wouldn't compare him even. I don't even think he's as good of a pass catcher as a Dallas Goedert, who's your third guy. So yeah, if Lamar ends up being down 10 points, 14 points in this game, I don't know if he's really got the horses to really, keep up in a shootout. So the Ravens are going to have to play their best defense of the year if they're going to get a win.
Yeah, 100% agreed. And their defense is really hurt right now. Michael Pierce, also their defensive tackle, is going on the IR as well. He's kind of big for the middle of that defense where the Bills kind of have trouble. I think Mitch Morrissey, the Bills center, still banged up. So having the Ravens defensive tackle out helps the backup center out.
So the Commanders go to the Cowboys, and they just got whooped up on the Commanders. I was there. Not the best seats, but that's another topic for another time. That's not
What,
the
you
best.
don't like beautiful FedEx Field?
It is not beautiful.
Yeah, it's the worst stadium in probably professional sports right now.
I would agree. I would agree. So there they got beat down in their home stadium, their high school football stadium, and the Cowboys got a win on Monday night against the Giants. Where are you going in that one?
This one was tough when you sent me this pre-podcast. I was debating on this one. Spreads +3, plus spreads -3 Dallas. So that means Vegas is basically telling you that it's going to be a coin flip because you usually give 2.5, 3 points to the home team. So Vegas is basically telling you that these teams are even. And I think I know this is a cop out, but I don't know. Whoever has the ball last, I don't know who to decipher who's the best.
I'm going with the Commanders.
Yeah,
I was saying I'm going with the Commanders in this one.
Like watching the Commanders last week, I can't trust that offense right now. Like it looked awful. It was funny, and when I went back and rewatched some of the all 22 in the tape from this game, I was so baffled at the Commanders play calling. Oh my God, they did not help Wentz out at all. They were making Wentz like do 5-7 step drops the entire game. The Eagles pass rush was just feasting. And like Scott Turner, the Commanders offensive play caller, still can never get that. My dad's a diehard Washington fan, still sometimes calls them the Redskins, so I always get that. I always still have to catch myself. But it was bad. It was bad. The offensive kind of game plan for Washington going in. So
and Carson played stupidly.
Yeah, he was. We've seen it before, right? Like he is so. It's funny. I had Andrew Brandt on.
I saw that.
A former executive from the Packers. He was on my podcast. He actually just wrote an article on Jalen Hurts and Carson Wentz, and he was saying Carson Wentz's fall off is one of the biggest falls from grace in NFL history. He said that's a former executive in the league. He's like, he said his words exactly. I don't understand it. He said that he looked like a star in 2017 and just completely like losing all his pocket awareness, his patience. He doesn't look like the same guy anymore. It's crazy. I know it's a whole nother conversation, but and the Dallas's offense, like it's hard to say. Like with Cooper Rush, he's 3-0 as a starter in Dallas. He was 1-0 last year. He's now 2-0 this year. You can fault the guy for maybe not having the best athletic ability and best arm, but he's been winning games for the Cowboys. And how long is that going to last, right? So we don't know. Again, whoever has the ball last, probably kicking some sort of game-winning field goal. This game is really tough to decipher.
I'm going Commanders 27-21 in Jerry World.
Yeah, that would be a good result for the Eagles. You want to see Dallas lose some games, right? Because Dak's going to come back eventually. So I think they're the biggest threat in the NFC East.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So you wrote a piece about the Cardinals, which is another team that I'm just baffled as to how they built their team around their quarterback with the pass catchers. I mean, I guess they've got Zach Ertz, and about their need to do better in the first half.
Yeah, so they scored 13 first half points to start the year. That's 29th in the NFL. The Eagles scored 24 points in the second quarter against the Commanders. Just to kind of put that in perspective.
Wow. 13 points in 3 games.
And combined in the first half.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. So 6 quarters.
13 points.
Wow. It's awful.
They're one of the most frustrating teams in the league for me. I've ripped them. I ripped them before the 2021 season on my podcast. Ripped them again before the 2022 season because I hate how they're constructed. I hate how they're run. Like the whole Kyler Murray saga this offseason was just ridiculous with the contract and like, why would you do that to your quarterback? Why would you put that in the press? And then they gave, like the ownership gave general manager Steve Keim a 6-year contract extension when he's made the playoffs once in 8 years. They gave Cliff Kingsbury a 6-year contract extension where it looks like he's just not the guy. Their draft picks have been brutal. Like you drafted Andy Isabella in the 3rd round. They drafted Josh Jones, a tackle who's currently a backup. He can't even crack the starting lineup on one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL. Like there's so many guys. You can take a look at some of the draft picks. Like they drafted an off-ball linebacker in the 1st round in back-to-back years. Like it's I don't know what the team building strategy is here.
And you let go of Christian Kirk, who's cooking for the Jags.
Yeah, he was expensive. Like again, that you just the Christian Kirk thing, there's way worse decisions, but you're right. Like they could have maybe found a contract extension earlier on where you wouldn't have let him hit free agency. Like he's a homegrown talent. You want to keep
right. That's what
and,
I'm saying. You couldn't have paid him now, but you could have paid him a year ago. You have him in house. You get to watch him practice and see him developing into what we see him being now. He didn't just become this player.
Yeah. So you draft Isaiah Simmons and then Zaven Collins in back-to-back years, and then you trade a first-round pick for a Marquise Brown, who's expensive and just
a first-round pick for him that's insane. Absurd.
Yeah, and he's just not like he's fine. I think he's a second wide receiver in the league, and his there's been enough stats to prove it. He's not like it's not like you're getting him for a discount either, right? Like you're paying the big bucks for it. So I think they're poorly built. I think they're poorly run. I think they're poorly coached, and I think ownership completely screwed it up by signing these two guys to contract extensions. This is a team that you should be looking at and hitting that big old red reset button, getting rid of the GM, getting rid of the coach, and starting fresh with Kyler.
Fire sale with a bunch of assets. They got assets.
Yeah, they're tired and they're old. Like all the players are old. Like Zach, look, I love Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz obviously a Philly legend, but did you really need to sign Zach Ertz to a 3-year, $30 million contract at 32 years old?
Get your money, Zach. If you're listening, get your money.
And then you draft Trey McBride, the best tight end in the draft in the second round. Nothing makes any sense. Like they're so ridiculously built. It's baffling. Like Arizona Cardinals, if you're listening to this, go and look at the way that's the transactions the Cardinals have made over the last 3 years. Like they are one of the worst run organizations. It's so and they have such a good quarterback. Like Kyler Murray's a talented dude. Like I know a lot of people give him crap for the Call of Duty stuff, and he's not like he's an odd guy, but he's one of the most talented quarterbacks in the league. You should be able to win with him.
He gives you a chance every Sunday.
Exactly, and I don't understand what they're doing. So they're a very, very weird team and one of the most frustrating teams. I couldn't imagine being a Cardinals fan. I'd be losing my marbles.
No, all the time. No kidding. So people that aren't overrated and not poorly run is the Eagles DB room. You got, I think, the 7th, 9th, and 10th rated in coverage corners this year. Is this the best Eagles trio, or how long do they need to sustain this level of play until you can say that?
I think you probably need a larger sample size, but it's pretty on point. Like you can't think back to when the last time the Eagles had cornerbacks like this. You're going back to the Lito Shepherd, Sheldon Brown days, probably, right? Like the Eagles have had a long stretch of bad cornerback play and bad wide receiver play, and this year it's completely changed. So yeah, like this is a really, really nicely built second, I guess, cornerback room. Like Darius Slay and James Bradbury complement each other nicely. Darius Slay is one of those guys that can Darius Slay can play all over the field. He can play zone, he can play man. We saw him lock, like they specifically wanted him to follow Justin Jefferson around sometimes. They had to move him into the slot against Maddox to kind of get anything going. And then James Bradbury is a guy as well that you can trust in press coverage and man and zone. And then Avonte Maddox has done a great job in the slot so far this year. He had a rough week 1 against the Lions. He had a couple catches at Jefferson, but he was awesome in week 3 of slowing down the Commanders. And he's a great slot corner. He's one of the best slot corners in the NFL. So it's a really, really well-built cornerback room, and Howie deserves credit. And thanks to the Giants for just throwing James Bradbury in a division rivals lap. What was it, May or June when they signed him? So it's
held him so he didn't get picked up by some.
Yeah, and then you just throw him right in the division rivals lap. So it was Howie's had some good
franchises.
Yeah, Howie's had good luck with that, like just kind of having a guy drop in your lap. Because let's think about it this way: like, what if Bradbury didn't get released, right? Like the Eagles didn't have a plan. Their plan was probably going into the draft, right, and getting a quarterback at that point. Or was it? It was after. I think it
was after the draft.
It was after the draft, right? So like, if Bradbury doesn't happen, who's starting across from them, right? So,
I think they would have had to overpay Steve Nelson.
Yeah, probably. Nelson. I don't think Nelson was signed at that point either. He went to the Texans late, so yeah, it all worked out for them.
Absolutely. So looking ahead to talk about the draft, looking ahead to 2023, is there a particular position group or a particular player that you're looking at, with the Eagles having 2 first-round picks and all?
So I think the position that's going to be the most exciting for fan bases to kind of watch is running back for next year's draft, because I'm assuming they're not going to pay Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders is going to be a free agent at the end of the year. Miles Sanders has looked pretty good through 3 games. I think he's actually probably looked the best maybe in his career through 3 games.
Yep.
He's back, but realistically, I have a hard time believing that Howie Roseman's going to open up the checkbook for a running back. If he takes a discount, then maybe, but I don't see it. I think Miles Sanders is going to hit free agency and probably sign for more money elsewhere. So the Eagles will probably have to fill in that running back hole. They have Kenneth Gainwell, who I really like. I was a big fan of drafting him. I thought he was great out of Memphis. I still think he's young and still has talent to show, but probably want to add another body in that room. So I'm going to throw out a name, maybe a Bijan Robinson from Texas.
I like it.
He's excited. He's looked awesome for the first 3 weeks, but taking a running back in the first round would go against anything I believe in, because I would never take one unless he's an absolute star, and Bijan Robinson can be. But I think running back's probably the place to look in, probably edge rusher. I'm assuming, I don't know if Brandon Graham's going to be back at the end of this year. Derek Barnett's probably gone, so they probably need some more depth there. And you know how Roseman loves taking defensive linemen.
Oh, yeah.
I would look there. Maybe even a right tackle, right? Lane Johnson's getting up there in age. Like, Howie likes drafting a guy a year too early than too late, right? He likes not kind of waiting for the draft to kind of find a position to fit. So they have a hole at right tackle, right? Are you trusting Jack Driscoll to be the right tackle of the future? They're probably not. They're probably going to want to add someone there.
He's a depth guy.
Yeah. Lane Johnson's probably got a year or two left here, right? I'm assuming we'll be back next year, and then that's probably his run in Philly. So you got to start thinking long term there. Safety is also another one, right? Like CJ Gunnar-Johnson's playing safety there right now. We'll see if Marcus Epps can kind of hold down that spot. So that's the thing. This roster doesn't have a ton of like obvious holes they need to fill going into next year, right?
Well, the only caveat, yes, I agree, but the only caveat I would say is that they're both of those guys need to be re-upped this year. Yeah. They're both on the end of their deals. They're rookie deals, so got to figure it out.
Gardner Johnson, I'm assuming they would want to re-sign him, right? They traded some assets for him. He's still young. That's a guy you don't want to leave your safety room, but he has to play for it and earn it. And so far I think he's played pretty good. He's played over 99% of the snaps through 3 weeks.
Amazing.
It's pretty crazy. And he was traded 2 weeks before the season, so I think he deserves kind of some credit for just being able to separate in and play so many snaps.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So looking forward to Sunday, because that's what a lot of people are going to be listening for. Who do the Eagles need to play big on offense to get a W? Because I think personally, just spoiler here, I think this is going to be a tighter game than people expect, looking at the name Jaguars being in the link as well.
So it's funny. The spread really bothers me. It's 6.5. The Eagles are favored by 6.5. I think that's high. Really way too high. I think it should be closer to the 4-point range, maybe 4.55. I think it's time to say that the Jacksonville Jaguars are just a good football team. This isn't. They're playing in a bad division. This isn't. They've gotten lucky. This is a good football team. They whooped the Chargers' asses.
Yeah, they did.
Like they spanked them, and like they're. It's funny. The Jaguars are fast. Like they've got a lot of fast guys on both sides of the ball. Like Christian Kirk is quick, and like their offense, like Travis Etienne can take it down. James Robinson's probably one of the best running backs in the NFL right now. Like he's playing out of his mind. And on the defensive side of the ball, they can throw so much speed at you. Like Trayvon Walker's really quick. Josh Allen, those guys can get off the quarterback really well. They have Oluokun, who's quick, and then Kevin Lloyd is one of the best first-round draft picks right now. He's playing out of his mind at linebacker for Jackson. He's been awesome through 3 weeks. So this defense is what's really caught me off guard. Like they have a really good defense. I didn't think they would be able to kind of keep up. I thought their offense was going to be okay, and then their defense would hold them back. But both these units are playing really well. I'm I wouldn't say worried, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Eagles lost this game. Like this is a team coming in. You got the Doug Pederson, like I guess motivation factor for Jacksonville, right? Like the Eagles are 3-0. Like just mathematically speaking, they're due for a loss. If that makes sense.
That's right.
This game kind of screams that. So I think this is going to be pretty close. Like I think the Eagles are the better football team. Don't get me wrong, but Jacksonville's no joke. I think it's time to kind of crown them as a legit AFC team.
24-27. I don't know who wins, but that's how close I think it is.
Yeah, I could see it. I can definitely see it. I think again, Eagles are probably the Eagles are the better football team. but Jacksonville is no joke. But
this is more. I was about to say on any given Sunday, but again, respect the Jags. I think this is more than some any given Sunday. This is like, when you're close, either team can win.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, 100%. Again, I wouldn't be surprised if the Jags lost, but it's hard. This Eagles offense, man. They're I've watched Eagles football for a long time. This kind of reminds me of like the Vic year when they just kind of took off and they were scoring so many points. Like this Eagles offense is deadly. They got so much weapons, man. Like AJ Brown, Devonta Smith just quietly pulling up 8 catches for 150 and 8 yards, and not even just like 8 catches, like 8 legit catches. Like those catches were hard.
Yeah.
Like if you look at the stat line, you're like, okay, like the 8 158, but like man. Like if you go watch the catches he made, they weren't easy. He had to earn those bad boys. So
I'm encouraged.
Yeah, like the Eagles, I saw stat. The Eagles are the only team in the NFL that have 3 wide receivers have 45+ yard catches. That's pretty spectacular. Like Quez Watkins, AJ Brown, and Devonta Smith can all beat you deep downfield. So it's so hard for defenses to kind of counteract that.
So what's your score prediction for Sunday?
I'm
not gonna let you off the hook. I gotta get it from you.
I'm going to go 27-24 Eagles, so I'll kind of copy you. I think that sounds about right. I think this is going to be kind of the Eagles will squeeze away on a game-winning field goal. But, again, don't be surprised if the Jags kind of pull this off. The Eagles are, again, 3-0. Mathematically speaking, if you think the team's going to go 13-4 at best, this is a time for a loss, right? Every 4 games. So it all is kind of adding up for that. But I just think the Eagles are probably the better football team and will squeeze away for it at the end. But
And if we do lose, if you like the Eagles, things will be okay. The sun will rise.
That's something I want to stress with fans too. Like if they lose, the sky's not falling. This is a good Jacksonville Jaguars team, and again, there'd be 3-1 heading into Arizona and Dallas, coming up 2 very winnable games there. I think Jacksonville's better than both Arizona and Dallas right now. Yes. I think it's the toughest game coming up out of the 3 games before the bye.
And then you got the Steelers. So
yes, I think they have a bye, right? After
then the Steelers. Yeah.
Seriously. So there's some winnable games coming up easily. And I think that bye is actually going to be kind of important to maybe get some guys healthy and some rest, because the offensive line's on the older side, right? So it's not bad maybe to have an early bye and get these guys some rest early.
Absolutely. Brenden, thank you so much for coming on. Obviously, you could talk all day birds, all day NFL, but you've got important things you need to do. Tell the people what you're working on and where we can follow along.
So you can follow me at Brenden Deeg _ on Twitter. You can listen to the Double Dunk podcast. It's on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And yeah, man, I think I'm just over a month in. I'm at a new job at The Score. It's going really well. I get to write about football for a full-time job now, so I can't complain. But it's been fun. I'm loving it. Environment's been awesome. Company's been awesome. So yeah, you can catch my stuff there at The Score as well.
Cheers. Yeah, I absolutely will continue to read and retweet and share. You guys should definitely go follow him and check me out. It's Mention Pod on Twitter, honorable mention _ podcast. And if on a personal level, I'm POLITIDOPE, which is a lot of different stuff. That's not just sports. So if you just want the sports, go to the honorable mention sports pages. But thank you so much for listening, Brenden. Great having you again, man.
Thanks for having me on, man. Appreciate it.